in one way for the pandemic, just because it has extended our reach, to other places that otherwise maybe we wouldn't have been able to grow so fast. But on the other hand, there is that longing that we all have to really be in the same room with each other.
Welcome to Working Women Mentor, a podcast for women in business with a mentor mindset. If you're working on a business or in one, you'll meet women here who you want to learn from and that will inspire mentor moments in your life. Let's dive in and share stories, experiences, and mentor moments with these fabulous women. Here's your host, Rani Alfers.
Hi, everyone. Today's guest is Wendy Boyden. Wendy is the co-founder and COO of Boss Talks. Wendy has held leadership roles as both an accomplished attorney and a senior executive in the insurance industry. Her legal career focused on employment discrimination litigation, as well as training companies on how to implement policies to comply with employment discrimination laws and promote a more supportive working environment. That's something we can all agree is important. Wendy values mentorship and has worked with many young women to overcome the challenges of their career. This led her and her co-founder, Hillary Gatsby, to form Boss Talks, which is a global community that empowers women entrepreneurs and business executives to level up their businesses and unleash their income potential through providing mentorship, connections, and sisterhood. And not only that, one of the things I love about Wendy is that she's one of the most kindest people you'll encounter. She's real, she's authentic, she shares, and you're going to love this conversation with Wendy. Here we go. So Wendy, I am so thankful for you to be here today. You have so much to share with the women listening out there. How are you?
Thank you so much, Rani. I'm so excited to have this chat with you today and to talk to all of my beautiful, powerful women out there, and other mentors and aspiring mentors.
Well, and the very first thing I have to ask you is the very best advice that you've ever received. What do you feel like that is? I'm sure it could be at different moments in your life, but what would you share with us?
It would have to be, it's very simple. It's trust your instincts. I mean, that's why you have them. And unfortunately, some of us don't really learn that lesson until later on in life. And we when we learn over and over again that we should have listened to ourselves. And I personally have, and I'm sure many other women have as well. And you just learn that your gut instinct won't lead you into a wrong place.
That's such good advice. It's one of those things that I agree. It gets better with age, but as you get older, you continue to tell yourself, why didn't I? I wish I could be better at this. You have to remind yourself to listen to your gut over and over and over. Trust yourself. Yeah, it's very common that women know what's happening, but we just want to give everyone a chance, or let's see how this plays out, or look the other way for a bit.
Yep, second guessing. Yep,
second guessing. We all do well. Me
included. Yeah.
Wendy, what have you made a worthwhile investment in your life, either professionally or personally? What would you consider the best investment it is that you've made?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you make investments both from a personal and a professional standpoint. So, because when you first say investment, I'm thinking, like making money, that's just what I think,
right.
Because I'm in business and so are you. So, from a personal perspective, the best investment was buying my own home. It was scary, and I was scared that I was not going to be able to afford the payments, that I was going to be eating popcorn for like the first 2 years for dinner. And, it was also in a rather dodgy neighborhood of Boston. So, I was just like, okay, there's somebody living in that dumpster over there. Should I have done this or no? But, I found a way to make it happen because it's what I really wanted. And, 15 years later, I'm glad I did because, it more than doubled in value and now provides an additional revenue stream that helps me to secure my financial future. So that's one of the worthwhile investments from a personal perspective. From a career perspective, for me, it was going to law school. Having that education not only helped me in my legal career, but it also helped me better shape, my thinking in my business, and also in other roles that I have had throughout my career. It always, always, always plays a role.
Well, and you've had a successful career as an attorney in employment discrimination litigation. You've switched over to the insurance industry and captured that same practice, but from the other angle. I
Yes.
think that when we think about employment practice liability or from an employment practice claim perspective, not many people are really sure what that means. Could you describe it and tell us a little bit about your field?
I started out my career practicing law, specifically employment. I did some other things, but employment was really my first love, and my only love in that field. And I started out defending companies and got to see what it looks like from that perspective. But a little later in my career, I also started representing employees as well. So that gave me quite another perspective. And there are two very different, things going on here. So from a corporate perspective, looking at it from a business point of view, what is this claim? Is there, regardless of whether or not there's any merit to it, it's what you have to think of what other people will think from looking from the outside in.
Mm-hmm,
And if something doesn't smell right, even if it's illegal, you've got a problem, and you've got to solve it. And it's an eternal issue, but it can turn into an expensive business lesson for any company. From an employee's perspective, it's, having gone through, a couple of different experiences myself with discrimination and with sexual harassment, we often we find ourselves in the place of really kind of being a little bit in shock, a little paralyzed, and we don't always necessarily know what to do. And, my advice in those situations, would always be, look, keep a journal. When you feel something hinky is happening, create a journal and talk about it, and talk about your memories. And if it gets to the point where it's just you'll know it when you hit it, where it just gets way too much and you feel like you're way over your head, seek out counsel. Absolutely seek out counsel. If there's somebody that you really, really trust at work, I think that it's worthwhile to reach out to them, but you have to make sure that you really trust them, because a lot of companies, their executives and their HR department are really looking out for themselves. So you have to really just be aware of that. And you need someone who's going to absolutely be in your corner. And if you don't feel that, consult an attorney. It's a free consultation. They'll tell you, what your options are, and, tell you about what you can do.
Well, and I think that's great advice, because my instinct, if I were an employee at a company, would be to go straight to HR. If it's something that I felt like I couldn't tolerate, even, right? It's that level, that threshold, I think, is what would push me.
Right.
But I
well,
think
that's what they tell you to do. That's what they tell you to do. But they do it because it's not. I hate to be so pessimistic about it, but in many cases, it's about the company protecting itself and not the employee. So just need to be aware of that.
It's very good to know. I think best advice, I think now if I know that, I'll go straight to an attorney and get an opinion, right?
Right. And I'm not saying that you need to just go straight to an attorney, that you shouldn't go to HR, but just keep in mind, if you do go to HR, just be careful of how you approach the situation, because you don't want to fully you don't want to say things that may come back to bite you.
Well, and speaking of advice, you have a passion for mentorship, which is why I'm so thankful you're here sharing with us today. And you've mentored young women, hoping they get through their career challenges and helping them along the way. What challenges do you find that women run into most, Wendy?
The most, I would say, is largely feeling like they need to do things on their own, because and I definitely felt that way, and definitely talking to other women who are, who are our members and, who are our speakers, they feel the same exact way. And, I think that especially during the pandemic, we were all, we all kind of felt that additional layer of isolation. And I think it made things a little bit more challenging, which is a shame because, we're at a time, where a lot of women are, and men are thinking about, well, should I take that leap? Should I start my own business? Do I have to do this 9 to 5? Do I have to do what it is I'm currently doing? And, in order to make those kinds of moves, you really do need to be able to lean on the support of other people and of people who have been there, who have done that, and can give you some advice and guidance, and as well as, introductions and recommendations.
Mm-hmm. It seems like we feel that, oh, we'll figure it out. I'll just, read a book about it or think it over for another 2 years before I do anything about it.
Yes.
But
You think you're protecting yourself and you're really not. So
it is
holding yourself back.
It is. There's a little bit of that imposter syndrome mixed in.
Mm-hmm.
There's all sorts of things mixed into that, I believe.
Yes.
Well, that leads me to Boss Talks. We have to talk about Boss Talks. It's an amazing group of women. Tell us about the founding principles of the group and what it means to you.
We're a global community of women who empower each other to step out of isolation, level up their businesses or careers, and to unleash their revenue potential. Our overall mission is to increase the economic footprint of women globally. Mm-hmm. And you always start with that bigger mission on a smaller level. And we started out as a speaker series in Los Angeles, where, where a large portion of us, even in corporate as well, didn't have those female mentors that would have been so key to our support and our navigating these difficult paths that we all navigate as as executives or as an entrepreneur. And the whole point of this was really to connect women to one another, to have successful women send the elevator back down for the next generation of women coming up, and to provide them with that mentorship that we didn't have, that we felt would have been key in our own businesses and would have definitely have made a more positive difference. And connecting them not only with each other, but to opportunity, grow their network, because what we've figured out throughout all of our years in business, and also as well as running this business, this startup, is your network is everything. It's absolutely everything. The most important thing you can do for your career, especially for us, is to connect with people from different backgrounds, careers, and businesses, because the more people you connect with, the better your chances of more opportunities presenting themselves to you when you need them. Mm-hmm. Case in point, we, when we had to switch from live events to virtual, we pulled out our Rolodex, and we literally within 48 hours we lined up 13 speakers.
So impressive. Mm-hmm.
So it really, and we were able to carry on our business until we figured out what how we wanted to pivot, and what our new business model was going to be, because quite frankly, things obviously had to change for everybody, including us.
Mm-hmm. It seems that those virtual meetings and these online Zoom meetings that you have with guest speakers really are able to touch many more people than the events you may have had before. I wonder if that's helped contribute to the growth of Boss Talks over the past year.
It has. It's kind of a double-edged sword too, because I'm thankful in one way for the pandemic, just because it has extended our reach, to other places that otherwise maybe we wouldn't have been able to grow so fast. But, on the other hand, there is that longing that we all have to really like be in the same room with each other and to have that personal connection with each other, to get to know each other. So it's been awkward. We've all been trying to recreate what that feels like, in a digital experience. And that's tough. I don't think it has been impossible. I think we've been able to do it, but it just depends on how you structure the program and how it has to resemble being there with a person as much as possible.
Hey, Boss Talks, as you mentioned, has become global. It's everywhere now, and chapters are opening all over the US and abroad. What is it like to be a member of Boss Talks? What is it that you want that member experience to feel like?
The experience, may be different for everybody. I mean, certainly we've talked to a lot of members, and some are like, you know what, this was the most important in my life right now, and you're giving it to me, which is basically, a more supportive community of entrepreneurs that you can lean back on, and that you can bounce ideas off of, and and really get some inspiration for moving ahead with what you want to do. For others, it's introducing, women mentors, giving them ideas that they really hadn't thought of before, and that have actually led to them, crafting a business strategy that has really paid off for them.
Well,
so it's a lot of different things. It's basically it's about your network, and it's about mentors.
I think that you guys do such a great job in Boss Talks. And by the way, everyone, I'm a member of Boss Talks. I highly recommend it. I'll get to that in just a second. But
yes.
I think the wonderful things that you do are the speakers that you bring. That very first week I had joined, I honestly had delayed it. I just put it off. It was one of those things, as we all procrastinate. And I thought, it's time. I really should meet some more people and exactly what we're talking about. And Suzanne Summers was on just 2 days later. It was so fun.
That was good timing.
It was perfect timing. And I just thought, how cool is this? That, but wasn't just because it was Suzanne Summers. It was her message. It was the small group. It was the intimacy of the conversation. I think that is very rare. So you do an incredible job of bringing that to people all around the country, no matter where we are or in person or not. So I have to give you some accolades to there.
Well, thank you. I mean, that's honestly, that's what sets us apart is that we're not just, we don't, our programs are not just talking heads. It's very interactive, because otherwise you tend to, people tend to, I do the same thing, zone out, and, your attention span only lasts so long. And we really wanted the goal to be for people to walk away with something tangible that they could use in their lives or in their businesses. And the only way to do that is through interaction.
Interaction and resources and learning and all of the other pieces of that platform that you have are extremely helpful. In addition, I think that it's beneficial as women to be able to, like you said, reach out to someone and say, like on your quick pitch events. When were you on there that day when I logged on and I said, I'd like to do a podcast, and I have no idea what I'm doing, right? Or
now you're doing it.
And here we are. And, but everyone was very encouraging, gave me ideas, connections. And I was very thankful for that time with everyone. So thank you.
Well, we are certainly blessed to have you, and you're an incredible addition to all of the other women that are in our organization.
And we'll include the links to how to join Boss Talks and so forth in our show notes. So I'll make sure that's in there.
Absolutely.
How do you plan on, what is the next phase for Boss Talks, Wendy?
It's really to make sure that we have more reach, that we build more communities of women in major cities. So it's really, it's growth. Right now we have 11 chapters. We have 9 in the US. We have 2 in Canada. And we do have members in 14 different countries. So it's really to explore, you know, where our members are, because it really, the growth of our chapters came from women reaching out to us saying, I want this in my city. How can I make that happen? And so that's definitely something that, is near and dear to us. And we want to be able to launch chapters in places all over the globe, so that women always have that network to reach out to, whether it's in their same city or whether, if they travel abroad and they go to another city, they have a ready-made network ready for them.
I see. Yeah, that is powerful, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
I bet it felt great to open that first chapter after they reach out to you and really want to grow. I can't imagine what that felt like.
God, it's such a incredible feeling when fortunately, we've done launches both live and digital. But it's just, the energy is just so incredible when you're in a room full of women whose only agenda is to help one another. It's just truly powerful. No one is competing with each other. Everyone is helping each other. It's absolutely, it's empowering.
There must have been a time in your life, Wendy, where you didn't know a group of women. You didn't have a network like this and that you do now. I'm sure there are many, many people out there in the same place that you were once. What advice would you give to them? What's the first step in reaching out to women? What do you do? How do you start?
Talk to your friends. Talk to, people. There are probably people that are, part of groups and organizations that are a really good fit, for them. And recommendations are always the way to go. But just do your research. On organizations that are aligned with who you are and what you want to get out of it. And just talk to people. Because that's the hardest thing, and it's awkward, and I get it. It can be a little, it can be a little intimidating, but the more you really put yourself out there, it doesn't have to be like, a complete huge change. It can be like incremental, one at a time. Just take baby steps, because that's what's going to work for you. But just make sure that, I would say that researching, particular like professional organizations or social organizations is definitely a great first step. And just talk to people, talk to your girlfriends, talk to, your other, friends and contacts, and, for groups that have really made a difference in their lives.
That's really great advice. Well, I have to know before we go, Wendy, what is your neighborhood like now, 15 years later?
Oh my goodness!
Please tell me there's no one living in the dumpster.
No, there are no more hookers living in dumpsters anymore, which is great. But
I love it.
But the neighborhood has still got a little bit of an edge to it, which is kind of what I liked. But no, the buildup has gone, it's just been so built up. Especially I think a lot of cities have experienced this in the last year, is booming. It's really made, I feel safe in my neighborhood. I feel safe in the neighborhood now. I mean, I rent it out, now because it's in Boston and I'm in Los Angeles, but it was such a scary thing for me at the time, but man, am I so glad I did it.
It feels so good to buy your first home. And if that's not a huge plug for everyone listening, if you haven't looked into it, it's one of the best financial decisions that we can make in our lives, I believe, is to have home ownership.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wendy, thank you for your time today. Your pleasure, your level of experience that you bring to everyone is such it's so worthwhile. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. This has been such a fun discussion. I always love talking about connections and about women's, economic independence and thriving. And, we would love to have your guests visit us. We're at Boss Talks Network on social media. We're at bosstalks.com on the web. As we get all of our messages, so feel free to reach out, and we'd be happy to schedule a time to talk to you.
That sounds great, Wendy. Thank you. We'll
Great.
See you soon.
Thanks so much, Rani.
Wendy had such genuine information to give us in this episode, from her achievements to home ownership and what that brings to her financially, her investments in herself with her legal career, her experience with being in both legal practice and on the corporate side from a ownership perspective to an employee perspective, lends a lot to the life we're living today with what do I do if something happens in the workplace? And I love the versatility that she brings to this conversation. In addition, her interest and sheer desire to empower women and to challenge them to step out of their comfort zones, to overcome the obstacles, and to really see and unleash their potential. She was most certainly an inspiration today. You can reach Wendy, as she mentioned, at Boss Talks Network on Instagram. The link to join the community will be in our show notes. It's both a free community and a paid community, so whichever one you'd like to opt into. Also, thank you so much for being a part of this Working Women Mentor podcast. Your support in this lends the next mentor moment to someone else. I hope this inspires you to share this with someone, or share what you know personally with someone else. It's not just about this episode. It's about what we know, what could help someone else in that moment that they might need it. If you'll follow us on Apple and Spotify, or whatever platform you're listening to a podcast on, and leave a review if you love what you're listening to, because it lets everyone out there know that this is worth listening to. If you have a mentor moment that you'd love to share with other people, please DM me. I'm receiving so many requests, and I can't wait to give shout outs to people and mention you and engage with you and have you on this podcast to share, because really this is a group of our peers. It's a group of our aspiring peers. It's a group of just amazing women. So look forward to hearing from you, and thank you so much for being a part of this Working Women Mentor podcast.